webinar. My colleague Jan Brunner from Krannich Solar will present you today's PV outlook for the next half of the year. Short notation from my side. If you want to ask a question or want to comment something, you can use the chat window and the questions will be moderated by me in the background. So it's up to you. It's your turn. Jan, thank you for joining in and have a good presentation.
Thanks, Magnus, for the great introduction, and hello from my side to everyone. I'm really happy that so many of you are joining today to listen and have a look at what we are seeing as Krannich, especially in the European market at this very moment. In preparation of this webinar, it was quite tough to find a way how to summarize a year like this in just 1 hour. I will try to present you the best of yesterday, today, and tomorrow, looking at this year, what happened, what we are expecting to happen, and I can already promise you that if you stay in until the end, it will get interesting right in the last points. And to get there quick enough, because we all have enough to do at the moment, we keep it very simple, very short agenda. What has happened in the first half of the year? What did we experience? What is our product update at this very moment? What did we find important during the last weeks to present to you? And what is our outlook for the rest of this and maybe even the beginning of the next year? So stay tuned until the end. It might get interesting for you. So looking at the review of this year, we have to start with the unfortunate topic of Corona. So the COVID-19 situation in Europe brought us, first of all, a lockdown of productions in China with a huge lack of demand. So we experienced that many of the European markets had very different situations. France and Spain had a quite tough lockdown and a difficult healthcare situation. Countries like Belgium, it was prohibited for installers to do installations. So in total, we had different approaches in the different countries and different way of running of the PV markets in the countries, combined with a huge lack of availability from Asia. So thanks at this very moment to all of our customers and partners which supported us this much. We tried during many weeks and months to stay in constant contact with you. We never had as many phone calls with customers and also suppliers like in these days, to like every day from scratch beginning to analyze the situation, see what will be coming, what are we expecting, giving you the last of our availability that we found in our warehouse. I believe our module warehouse was never as empty since the moment it has been built. So yeah, we experienced quite stable prices. We wanted to switch into this year with dropping module prices, which could not happen because the cheaper stuff that we were expecting had never been produced or shipped. So it was like a pretty stable situation where we were able to find many very good solutions with many of you to just keep the ball rolling. And even though in the background it was a difficult situation, I have the feeling we grew together with many companies and came out of it quite well looking backwards. Also, all Corona cases within our company, as far as I look at it, have been, all people have been healed. So looking back at it, so far, I hope that the situation like this is not coming back. And we could keep, due to the fact that 90% of our people were in home office of all time, basically keep COVID-19 out of our company in total. So never any of our offices or so was affected. And I remember when at the beginning, staff was a bit curious about, hey, how the hell is management reacting here? Is this really necessary? Our IT was great in suddenly supplying a lot of home office equipment that we had never planned on purchasing. So we were stable at all times. Our warehouse was running on a very, very high capacity, and we even had some shipment records in this time because, and this is a Krannich specialty, like we do every year, for us it's more important to have stock in the warehouse at the beginning of the year than having the latest last cent per watt peak cheapest stuff to be able to supply you during first quarter, because this is something that is naturally happening every year. Many of the companies that ship solar modules into Europe empty their stock at the end of the year, and then supply only starts with production in January, February, with stuff coming in March and April. So all the installers that in these quite warm winters lately want to start building in the beginning of the year need a constant supply. So we kept our warehouse capacity at a quite high level and could therefore supply many of our customers for a very, very long time with solar modules and all the other equipment. And we stopped supplying large-scale projects and tried to keep everything for our distribution customers. And I can say, looking back at it, it all worked out very well. And I'm happy that it did not bring a further impact. The first half of the year was also showing a great trend towards digitalization. So we started different new stuff. We tried a first Krannich roundtable with some installers and suppliers, something that after this first test, we might be rolling out because it's interesting, and it might be something that in many European regions could be a good thing to connect many of you with many of our suppliers and keeping information flowing, because information flow is one of the most important things at the moment that we see. There is a lot of content of information being produced, a lot of new products, new suppliers everywhere, especially in the storage market. A lot of movement is going on. And for us, it's getting tougher and tougher to filter the right information and present it to you in the right chunks. So we were one of the first in Europe having a web shop running, so you always have your availability, you have product information. And it really makes sense to look in from time to time to get updates. We now have blogs in different languages. We try to supply you with the most important information constantly via webinars since many years. But we also realize that many others, especially suppliers, manufacturers this year, started doing webinars, so there really has been a flood of it. And what was missing this year actually so far is Intersolar. So many trade shows have been canceled or postponed. We still don't know if they will take place this year eventually or not. But instead, a lot of internet activity suddenly took place. So manufacturers like SolarEdge, like SMA, REC started with online booths and presented their latest product updates in digital Intersolar replacement events, let's say. And this is something that we watched very carefully, and we took out the most important information. And during the next minutes, I want to present you the essence of what we find is interesting for you at this moment. Of course, in the background, there is way more information. So read our newsletters carefully, look into our LinkedIn or Facebook accounts from time to time. So we constantly provide you with a never-ending stream of information, but we try to filter it into different ways. So you always get the most important stuff in a way like this year. The next thing I would like to talk about with you is our portfolio and the whole essence of what we found interesting in these digital events during the last weeks. So as you know, we have a very, very broad portfolio. We have many interesting brands all over Europe, and there was quite some movement in there. So you might have come across the fact that ABB is now in the name of Femur active in the markets. We had a quite difficult supply of BYD storage systems, so Axi Storage, Neom, LG ESS were very good replacements. In total, we were quite happy in the first half of the year to have such a broad portfolio because we could supply modules like at any times, and even in the worst moment there was always something left. And yeah, one good example on how this interaction between us and the manufacturers works is the one brand that we took in new into our portfolio just end of last and beginning of this year with Energetica, an Austrian company which just last year built a totally new production site in the south of Austria. So at the moment, they ramped up this production to a 12 busbar 120 half cell module, which has a patented and integrated shadow protection. In the case of Energetica, it's called EISP, and yeah, it is integrated in every module to avoid shading losses, and it's quite an interesting additional value. Additional to the fact that Energetica on its production side is producing more energy than it's consuming for module production. So if you have been looking for a new brand to present to your customers, this might be an interesting featured module. And they're also at least a little step ahead at the moment concerning available power classes. So in full black, we are going direction 365, which can be ordered already, and 375 and an upcoming 380 is also on the way in terms of standard mono. Another important brand, and interesting enough, it's also coming from Austria, is Neom. We started with Neom already last Intersolar, and the first product we took in our portfolio was Block, a huge storage system, scalable until large commercial storage, and with many interesting features to keep your energy consumption running even in a lack of grid. So it is a huge chance to combine storage systems exactly for a customer's need. If you look at Block, you can build exactly the right size, and this is something that is combined with all the features that are optional, a good chance for you to start into commercial storage. We additionally took in the Cube product, which is rather a residential storage or even a link towards Block. So Cube can be used as a small commercial, small residential storage, but it is also very useful in this in-between thing at around 20 kilowatt hours, where most of the residential storages are too small and where Block might still be too big. So now Neom is closing the gap, and with its charging environment, like the charging station box, which has quite some features. It has a charging capacity of around 22 kilowatts and a Type 2 connector, and a lot of additional features that can be added, like RFID or web interface and so on. It builds a complete portfolio that you can offer to your end customers. And one thing we shouldn't forget, it also looks nice, it looks good. So it's a good end consumer product and a new brand, a rising brand on the market. Looking into the other major events that took place during the last weeks, one of our favorites that were presented was the Sunny Tree Power Core 2 from SMA. It has a 12 MPP tracker included, and it is a very exciting pricing for a European product. And the good thing is it is combining this pricing and that flexibility with all these added values that are coming when you purchase an SMA product in terms of service, reliability, and so on. So this might be an upcoming star also at the in the European commercial sector. The 360-degree service app that SMA just launched for installers parallel to this inverter might also help to build a huge service environment for the end customer through you as an installing company. Also, a new EV charger has been presented by SMA, up to 22 kilowatt with boost function. And yeah, so the package of new stuff that SMA created is totally worth having an extra look onto their website or into our web shop, where, for example, the Core 2 can already be purchased. So we ordered quite a big chunk of first stock, and it already starts getting sold. So if you want to be one of the first having one, then better be quick, dial into our shop and get the first units already now reserved for you. On the commercial side, SolarEdge is directly following up on SMA. So with their 30K and SE 33.3K, which will also be in the future combinable to bigger stations, SolarEdge produced a very lightweight inverter for this output. And also this one has quite some interesting features. It can be oversized up to 150%. And in total, you can build very interesting new SolarEdge systems with this new highest inverter class. An additional useful product that SolarEdge launched parallel with it is the wireless gateway, which will support and make communication, especially via Wi-Fi, way easier than before. So you as installer have very much less to do and can concentrate on what's really interesting and important, selling installations and building them. There will also be new optimizers for all the upcoming new module sizes, which we will also have a quick look at later. And also the 4-module optimizer will be launched and already shipped and should be available from August on. So for commercial installations where you can combine 4 modules, keep that in mind if you're already in the planning phase. Another important product which has its impact in our portfolio now, at least at 50% in the commercial portfolio, is GoodWe. GoodWe has the 50 and 60K MT available in our stock. So we heard some rumors in the market that some products might not be as available as they should be in terms of commercial inverters, especially if you need them really on short notice. So this is a good thing where you can just quickly buy and get it shipped right away. The German VDE 4110 version will be available from August on. The stuff is already being produced and then shipped. So the 50 and 60 KN MT for Germany needs a bit longer, but the internationally available version that is can be built everywhere, like Exact Germany, is already available. And the 80K version will also be following in October. So you can also be planning your bigger installations with this. Now contact our sales team, and we will be launching this very soon with an additional newsletter. The other half of the GoodWe portfolio that we have is, of course, so string inverters of below 1 up to 36 kVA, and the 3-phase hybrid inverters, which are very, very interesting in combination with the top running storage systems. It just got a new pricing, and the price dropped around, let's say almost 20%, I would say. So this is something where you should have a look at if you are looking for interesting price value ratios in terms of storage systems with a hybrid inverter. In August, also the ET 6.5 version will be available, filling the gap in the hybrid portfolio. So we're looking forward to this new product. And talking about top running storage systems, there is of course to be mentioned BYD. Unfortunately, out of the fact that it has been totally booked out during quite some weeks, by now we can announce that for some of the products there is good availability during the next weeks and month. I'm just seeing a little mistake in here in one slide. So the HVS is mentioned twice. It should only be in the second line. So HVM and LVL are available from August. HVS can be purchased for the month of October again. There have been so many bookings during the last weeks that I have to say it is very, very important if you're planning further with these products, place your orders until the end of the year. Especially with the HVS in October, it might be that the bookings until end of the year are coming in during the next weeks. So if you want some, maybe put 2 or 3 on your own stock, or place already bookings until the end of the year, because what is in will of course be served first if it has been ordered first. So we are having a look into it, and it might be that if there is additional free quantities, we would contact you. There's also a new order option at Krannich that you can place with your sales, which is called ship as soon as possible. So if you want this stuff as soon as possible, just mention it with the order, and then we will just ship it out as soon as we have availability for you without even having to ask again. So whenever we know that an order can just be shipped, just mention it. There are some remaining quantities of the B-Box 3.5L, which we have on stock. So as long as stock lasts, and the LVS will also be delivered beginning from August on, with the smallest unity of 4 kilowatt hours net capacity. So a very, very interesting product. There is a high demand out there. So if you want to get yours, rather be quick, rather order now, and get your share of our supply. One thing we should not forget in this moment is the increasing portfolio of e-mobility. I'm mentioning it here because we're getting more and more questions, more and more demand in more countries, especially in Europe. E-vehicles are gaining market share. There have been decisions in different countries towards e-mobility now after the Corona situation or during it. So we increased our portfolio. We came from having Mennekes as basically the inventor of the Type 2 plug, and being a strong German brand, offering basically a full service, nothing to miss product. I showed you already the NEOM solutions before, which are having a good price value ratio and are also very nice looking and might be a good solution in combination with the NEOM storage systems. And the same accounts for SMA and SolarEdge. SMA just launched this year, SolarEdge already last year, and you basically can combine these products very well with the inverters of these two manufacturers. In terms of how they bought, we have a new supplier of e-mobility solutions in our portfolio, which we regard as very interesting, very flexible, very close to what installers need, and a good development of products. So for example, Fronius would support Hardy Bard, so you have your fitting solution for every single inverter brand of our portfolio. One more thing that we need to mention, and which I find a very interesting thing, is a new mounting system that we have just come across first time the other week. Of course, we knew there was something in the pipeline, but there was a first presentation of the new system during the K2 SoCo Solar Conference, which took place just beginning of this week, 30th of June. So if you had registered for the Solar Conference of K2, you can still find the introduction video online and just log in and watch it. It is still safe there. I'm expecting a lot of more stuff to be presented during the next weeks. So as we know, K2, there will be a lot of videos and information through multi-channels being pushed out. So you find out how innovative this new system is. It's called Dome 6, so it's already the 6th generation of the famous K2 Dome system. But in my opinion, it's really the one making the biggest leap forwards of like all other generations that came in. So from now on, around 80% of the system will be pre-assembled, which makes you, I guess, at least 50% faster in installation. And it has additionally been adapted to new wind tunnel standards, making the system more flexible and giving you as installers a lot of added values. I don't want to get into too many details. You will get the information soon, but as mounting system, as it is not seen on the first look, sometimes is a bit underestimated in product presentations. I really wanted to have a closer look at it because I believe that in many, many countries, this system makes K2 very competitive with also local manufacturers and brings a totally new wave into the K2 portfolio. Additional to it and somehow connected, the version 3.0 of K2 Base has been launched with a totally new user interface and now a dashboard for your project management. So K2, which had already connected with a lot of inverter manufacturers. So for example, you already know you can plan your K2 system and then switch over to SolarEdge Site Designer or the SMA Designer or Goodwe, Costal, Fronius. So all the major brands that you can purchase from Krannich are in there. And now you can also go even the next step and have your installations management. You find a nice tool in there connected with K2, so that you do not lose track of any installation or any offer you made anymore. And K2 even goes a step further, adding values by creating the Docu app, which is a new option for you to create a full documentation of the installation you made, and you can even get it signed just on your mobile phone display by the end customer. So you have all the documentation ready whenever the installation is finished. And I had a look at it last week. It is really easy going and almost self-explanatory. So yeah, this is a mounting system provider which is adding values also apart from the systems and the product itself, which we very much like because it helps in terms of digitalization to add more values to the whole system, which makes it also easier for us as wholesaler or system integrator. Talking about mounting systems, we should also have a look at Veridian, which has a role between mounting systems and solar modules, as it's basically a module with added frames for roof integration. We have the latest power classes in our stock right now. I have to mention it because the demand during the last weeks and months was much higher than the supply that we could get. So from now on, the 320 mono and the 320 mono and the 300 full black are available from stock, and you can just start purchasing it and be back in the roof integration business with the latest stock availability and also a new pricing. And pricing is something that leads us totally over to solar panels. Which trends do we see here? Basically, it's two. The first one is, if you haven't noticed yet, then surprise, there has been a further price reduction at the end of June. And from now on, you should see new prices in our web shop. We will also be informing again with the newsletter. We are passing on the advantage in pricing that we got on the procurement side, and it totally makes sense for you to take a quick look into our shop, see what the new pricing is, or call us. So shop is always a thing that I need to explain. Just a quick moment here. In the shop, you always see the pricing for direct order. if you have a bigger amount or an amount for later this year or a bigger amount for later this year, please contact us personally. Give us a quick ring and we will quote you exactly for what you need. Because first thing is, by, for example, shipping directly from Rotterdam or from our external warehouse, which is either for full containers or for bigger quantities, so normally starting at 100 panels, we can or we have a cost advantage in logistics, and that we can forward to you in terms of giving you the best possible price for bigger quantities. And this is combined with how module prices are being built within the market. So be aware that you always get a short pricing from us in the shop for short-term notice. So you can purchase today, get it shipped tomorrow, and this price directly appears on your invoice. But as module production depends pretty much on the raw material and its prices, and also on the time between raw material purchase, production, and shipment to Europe. We are talking about 8 to 12 weeks in between getting to know a new pricing that will appear and having the modules at this price level in our stock. So we can always be pricing already some weeks or even months ahead. If we know, hey, there is a price drop on the supply, on the purchase side of the company. And as soon as this stuff then enters our warehouse, of course, this stuff will also, or this new price will also be shown in the web shop. So everything that is on longer term, give us a call, get into contact with us and have a quick talk on what you need for when. And whatever is just on short term, feel free to just go to the shop. You will have the best price that we can offer at this moment automatically. In the long term, there are, I guess, there is at the moment a situation where the whole European market after Corona is looking forward to taking some more steps towards lower prices. There have been good announcements in this situation, but as I promised in the beginning, right at the end, we will have a quick look at modules and their availability situation again. Before we quickly look at the other solar panel trend. So prices are going down and sizes are going up. And this is somehow equalizing each other in some cases. So the main reason we are seeing at the moment why bigger wafers and hence cells are being used is the freight cost optimization of manufacturers. If modules are a bit bigger, containers are used optimized, and you just fit more watt peak into one container. So therefore, logistics-wise, module sizing is being optimized. But we also see that we had customers in contact during the last weeks where we were discussing some very, very attractive looking offers. But by looking at it twice, we realized it was not as interesting as it looked on the first view. So the module surface is being enlarged, but the efficiency of the modules in the normal case stays the same. Or in some cases, it's even worse in the bigger module. So if you look only at the module sizes we have in our portfolio, so we have length from 164 to 211 and a width from 99 to more than a meter. So if you only combine this is already a huge amount of different possible sizes. So what we did internally, and this is something that we can now also discuss with you, is compare modules in watt peak per square meter. This might be sounding like, hey, this is like floor tiles calculation. And yes, maybe we're pretty close to it at this very moment. But we see that we want to support you to make the right decisions, because it does not make sense to be working on a small roof that needs flexibility in terms of module placement, and then you have big chunks of modules that cannot really be placed properly. And in some cases, we have seen customers which purchase something and we're not aware of the size of the module behind the power class. So this is why we should talk about it. Just to make an example, if you look at a 330 watt module, we have two different types. And to keep it simple, the one is the standard mono half cell, 120 half cells. I would say the standard module at the moment. And there we are at around 200 watt peak per square meter. And now you all know the typical 72 cell poly, which can also be purchased as a 330 watt module. And here we are only at 170 watt peak per square meter. So many percent less than the mono. And of course, this poly is also cheaper in euro per watt peak, but you need to know it in the first place. So if you have installations where only the price matters, ask us for poly models. We still have them, not many others do. If the size of the module does not really play a major role and the space on the roof or in the field is not limited, then you can take a lower power class and have possibly the best price per watt peak. If, like on normal European roofs, the space is often a bit limited, then maybe take the standard power class. So the top runner, the 330, is basically the combination of one of the best price value ratios. If you look at the high end of it, you should look at the new LG 380 watt peak, which is very, very interesting because it comes up to 220 watt peak per square meter. So it's another 10% on top. And here you need to take it in relation to the price and find the best fitting product for your customer. We know that many end customers appreciate good module brands and want to feel secure. And in the end, some roofs are so small that only with these high-end modules you get enough power out for the end customer to be satisfied. And also the REC Alpha series is a very interesting product going to the high extent of this watt peak per square meter. So have a look at it and maybe you find your own way to calculate this stuff. We just want to help you a bit to not going for offers that look too attractive out there and in the end don't make sense for your business. And a promise, we will also continue with these old models. So the 330 is basically still new from this year, but it will be maintained in our portfolio. So we will have a close look on what the demand is, what you really need. Is it the bigger sizes, the smaller sizes? In the end, we try to give you the best information to serve your demand. We will bring everything in and have it stocked. And on long term, you as customers decide what you're aiming for. But at this moment, we know that loads of offers are out there with a standard 330 mono half cell module at a very good price value relation. And you can still go for that whenever you get the orders from your customer. And we keep it available for you. Now looking at solar modules, this might be enough for the moment. And I would switch over to the outlook I want to give you, what we're expecting for the second half of this year. The first thing, what is very important, is we will meet again. So now that holiday season is starting and many people are traveling more than they used to do this year, also our outside sales is sitting like on burning coal and wants to be out with you again. So many of our staff is missing their customers, the relations, the talks, maybe the coffee. So we will be visiting again, and I guess there will be a flood of demand at the moment of customers wanting the latest update or a wrap up like today of what in their market and with their portfolio is the most important in terms of update. So better dial in and already plan a meeting with your account manager so you are amongst the first that gets the latest information. We will, of course, take care of all security measures that are appropriate in that moment to ensure that you and our staff, of course, are both safe. So we can basically be starting now. But I can also say that if you rather want to have a Teams call, either a pure phone call or also video call, everything is possible. So what we took out of the Corona time is you don't have to drive for every small thing around. It's also an environmental thing. So whenever we can, we will also stay in our office or home office and give you a call in a proper environment. So you decide the way of contact that you want with us and just let us know so we can react. We use Corona time a lot to get more efficient and more stronger, quicker for you. So we took some new logistics partners on board also to react on the logistics and freight market that we have in Europe at the moment. There are drivers missing, so this was one of the worst impacts in Corona for us. The drivers of the freight agencies or the freight companies, which were stuck in their mother countries, and so there were not enough truck drivers for many weeks available. A trend which we had already known, which will go on in the future, and which might be stimulated again right now because holiday season is starting. And as, for example, Germany is placed pretty much in the middle of Europe, and many trucks also from international traveling go through Germany, there is always a limited amount of trucks allowed to drive during holiday season. So there are certain restrictions. You will also find that online. It's a thing that happens every year, and we are already preparing for it and trying to relax the situation as much as we can, just to make sure you order as early as possible, and if you can, plan a little buffer to make things easier and lower the risk. So typical summer vacation thing. It's almost a bit like in Christmas time when everyone needs to ship everything at a time, and drivers will, for the future, always be limited. Our IT and processes team worked pretty well. So we have some new features, for example, in our shipping software and so on, which will be rolled out and implemented during the next weeks. And therefore, we are prepared for a new level of demand. Many European markets with the new price level of modules are going very, very well. For us, that means more shipments and a lot more stuff to turn. So we are prepared for it, and we took the time during the last weeks and did not come to a standstill, but rather increased our movement in this direction. One other important thing that you might have come across already is there was that 52 gigawatt lid or cap on the German market, and this has just been lifted, or is finally supposed to be lifted this, I guess, afternoon, because the Federal Council still has to approve of the new building energy law. But whenever this is passed without problems, and we don't expect any more problems, the cap should be lifted immediately, so before the Parliament summer break. And that means that from Germany, there is a higher demand coming again towards these installations up to 750 kilowatts, because here the feed-in tariff will stay active and will not be abandoned as it was planned with this almost crazy 52 gigawatt cap on the market. So looking not only at Germany but all other European markets, we see recovery and stabilization almost everywhere. Poland was having a very, very strong Q1. I don't have any Q2 figures left yet, but we have seen that especially the impact of Corona on the first half of the year did a lot also in terms of managing what will be happening in the second half of the year. So a lot of movement is going on. Spain and France are just recovering out of their lockdown situation. Belgium, I mentioned before, had a tough lockdown. Sweden is still dealing with the Corona situation. So we look into every single market and how residential and or commercial business are performing. We see in Holland now, in the Netherlands, we see a good stabilization going on. There we see other issues like the grid connection, that projects are not getting grid connection allowance yet. So there are further delays, especially in commercial business, even though here residential is going quite well. So for us, this is a quite colorful map of Europe, and we are trying to look at every single country as much as possible to provide you with the best local information. Overall, we see that everything is like emerging, starting to grow, and coming out of a standstill into a lot of movement. We have a very positive outlook. We have a high demand from the market. We have a good availability of products. We have exciting prices like never before. So in general, the conditions in all countries are really stable at the moment. So basically a perfect situation for a good second half of the year. We see a lot of commercial and industrial projects being planned at the moment. So for example, in Germany, what was blocked with the cap is now being opened, and suddenly, it's like opening a bottle. It's champagne or beer, whatever you prefer, is coming out, and everything is like flooding the market with projects that we can offer and supply. And a lot of it is going until end of this year, and also some demand is already for next year. And now you already see the increase in my voice. You can hear it. There is a big but. We see the plan and we hear the plan from China that China plans to actually build 40 gigawatts of new PV systems until the end of the year, starting basically middle and end of Q3. And they want it to be built until the end of this year. And 40 gigawatts, if you have, like me in the first place, no feeling what that really means. So for this year, an amount of 120 gigawatts for the whole world in the whole year of 2020 was forecasted. So if you take these 120 gigawatt and divide it by 4 quarters, that means 30 gigawatt of a worldwide demand per quarter. And now combine these 30 gigawatts with the 40 that only China wants to build in Q4. And if you think, that's never going to happen, this is too much, this is so much, have a quick look at how the end of 2019 was, when all of a sudden supply was gone and everything was ending up in the Chinese domestic market, and all the bigger manufacturers suddenly did not supply useful modules into Europe, and the figure that was built last year was already the direction of 30 to 35 gigawatts. So I'm quite sure that if China really wants to do that, they're able to do it. They have the building capacities. So I don't want to be a game changer or interrupter of your good mood out of the last minutes in this moment. But we already see that important amounts of August production, which would be arriving here in September and October, are being booked for the Chinese domestic market, because whenever they want to build this, it needs to be finished until the end of the year. So like it will go until blocking November production resources, which will also affect the amount of models being here in warehouses in Europe at the beginning of next year. So if you want it or not, you have to look into your planned schedule until the end of the year. And I know that due to Corona, everything is not going as it was planned, but we see it as our task to inform you of what we are seeing on the purchase side, what we are seeing on world market level. And we don't want to be blamed afterwards that you say, hey, you could have told me that before. So what I'm telling you now is there might be a huge threat of a shortage already from September on. So at this moment, everything is like, oh, nice, prices dropped, everything is available, and it's sunny out there, and everyone is building. And this might be ending up in a very, suddenly urgent situation of missing supply. So we are on our purchase side of the company working very, very hard at this moment. So we get supply, if possible, even additional supply, and try to buffer stuff, provide you until the end of the year with enough solar modules. What you can do is forecast with us, or whenever you know about a certain amount of projects that you are doing anyway, place the orders already. If you remember the first quarter, it was a situation of, shit, I did not buy anything yet. I want to do this project. Now I have to take a full black module, which is 4 cents higher in price than the one I originally planned. But nevertheless, this stuff has been purchased because modules were needed. And I believe with the planning that is done as good as possible in this very moment, you can prevent yourself from then having to purchase too expensive stuff. But in my opinion, as it was at the beginning of the year, a single cent per watt peak did not count as much suddenly. So the most important thing was being available, having something to build with. And of course, we are not sure what's coming up, but we see the signs, we see the signals, we try to read them. We will update you during the next weeks. But as already in August production, there is things going on. Make sure that you do a proper planning and order as quickly as possible, because I believe 0.5 cent of price difference can be forgotten about, as the end customer prices are quite stable. And what helps the biggest price reduction if you have nothing to build with? And this is a situation that we have seen several times in the markets, also in Q1, Q2. The ones without availability had the best hypothetical prices. And so try to have a look behind it and also have a look into your own demand, combine it with our availability and forecast or best order already for the next upcoming month. Place your project with us and to be secure. And whatever comes, you will see. We will keep you updated with all the information on this we get. So this is very fresh information that we just got during the last 2-3 weeks, and we wanted to provide it to you as early as possible. So this is it for the moment. I hope you enjoyed the quick look back into the last month and the really positive outlook into the next month if we all take the measures that we need to be safe here. And yeah, I hope you also enjoyed the product update and got some ideas of stuff that you might be looking in now as your own follow-up. I thank you very much for your attention so far. It was a pleasure having you. I wish you all a great weekend, and I'm already looking forward to meeting with you also in person again very soon. Thank you very much.